Was that I was an English major, and they had just started the English program, so that's what attracted me to begin with. And so I thought, okay, well, let me get into that program. And it was probably the golden age of the English department at that time. This institution was it was like a private institution because they had just started this program, the secondary English education program, social studies program for teaching high school and so forth. And so they had gone out and hired the very best people that they could find in the country. And we had an English department with people like Dr. Mackenzie, James Jeremiah Mackenzie, a Harvard graduate who studied with the top Shakespearean scholars. That was my teacher for Shakespeare, who became a lifelong friend. And so we had wonderful teachers. Nathan Karb, you know Nathan Karb, who, look how long he taught here. I mean, he wouldn't stop teaching. He never wanted to retire. But anyway, so the Department of English was really a superb department, and I just loved it. Lived on campus, lived in Oak Hall for 2 years, so that was my favorite hall. And of course, I think the best of all possible residence halls. It really was lovely, lovely dorm. I had a room on the bottom floor with windows looking out toward Hollybush. And yes, I lived here for all 4 years. Mm-hmm. I was teaching, and then in the middle of the year, I got a call. I think it was Richard, a friend of ours, who called and said they need somebody in the Department of Communication. Could you, are you available? I said, not really. I'm teaching over here, and so forth. So he said, well, you could start in January. And I went to the principal. I said, look, what I've trained for is available, but I don't want to leave you unless you feel it's okay. He said, sure, well, you go ahead. So I came to Glassboro in the middle of the semester, or the beginning of the spring semester in 1969, I think it was. Yeah, 68, 69 year, I came here. And the rest is history. And so we became a department with PR right away. And that was kind of avant-garde at that time. And then we had journalism, which was very important. We had creative writing, and we had college composition for the whole school, everyone. I don't know if they still do that, but everyone was required to take 101 and 102, we called them. So they needed teachers. And so there I was, jumping aboard, and then found my niche in the creative writing area, which I enjoyed so much with my students. We were all in it together, is how I always felt, And many of those students I'm still in touch with as a result. Mm-hmm. I never really wanted to move into administrative kinds of duties because I really enjoy the scholarly side of things and the actual teaching and learning process. They had to select what they wanted to call an interim dean, someone to transition from where we were to where we were going. I was very respectful and fond of our president and agreed to do that job. So that was 1996. And I left my office in Bunce Hall, beautiful corner office overlooking the dogwood trees by the greenhouse. What could be better than that? Left it, went over to our new facilities there at the campus school, and there was the office where our previous chairperson, David Cromie, had his office, which then became the office of the interim dean. It was a large office. And we began, it was very tentative, the whole thing. Would it work? Would we fly? We had the blueprint, but would we actually be airborne, And, we took off. And we had the students, we had the faculty, and we had the vision, and we had the will. And we did it. So we became, quite successful. And one story, I'll just say at graduation, every year when we were on the quad in front of Bunce Hall and called the name of the College of Communication. Well, it wasn't a college at that time, but when communication came up, the roar just took over the entire quad. I mean, it was like we were at a football game. That was, there they were. Here, you could hear them, you could see them, you could feel them. And it was very vibrant, and I just always remember that and the feeling of pride. We were very proud of our students, and I'm sure they still are. I didn't know I was a feminist. I didn't. People thought I was a feminist. But I just thought I was whatever I was. So it seemed to me that women should do whatever they want to do if they can do it. That's just basic. I didn't know that was considered anything but basic, but of course it is, and we certainly have glaring indication today in the world that that is not the case for many women. So anyway, as time went by and it became more and more focused on the status of women, not only in our country but worldwide, I became more aware and more, in addition to just knowing about it, being more vocal about it. And then the idea for the Women's Studies program came into being, and the person, George Reinfeld, who was the chairperson of the Department of Communication at that time, was a very supportive individual who supported the whole idea of pursuing a women's studies concentration, and also the first course, I believe, is the one that we designed in our Department of Communication called Women in Perspective. And that was a broad-based course that just surveyed the condition and the idea of the status of women, and became a general education course, as well as for the concentration, which was eventually passed. And so, yes, I did serve as the coordinator of women's studies for several years and enjoyed that role. It was very gratifying. We had a huge 3-day festival on this campus, inviting distinguished writer Kate Millett, who has since passed on, but one of the foremost feminist authors of her time and our time, was on this campus and stayed with me in my home, and it was a 3-day program. It was a huge program. It took me forever to recover from, but I'll never forget it. So we did great things. We did great things. And the program is still thriving today.